As interest rates continue to rise at least a little bit, if you're a prospective home buyer, you might be thinking, gee, is it a good time or a bad time to be making that move to have a house of my own? Well, Bruce Dodd at People's Home Equity says, do not worry. There is always a way to get you in the house of your dreams, and he's glad to be the one to help you along the way. Good morning to you, Bruce.
Hey, it's always good to see you.
You know, I have become one of those people who you are not supposed to be, which is I'm looking at my 401k balance a lot. I'm taking a look at the stock market. I'm not in the market to buy a home, but I still see about the interest rates, and the seesaw of it all can kind of make you worry unnecessarily, right?
Well, I mean, the thing is that over time there's always fluctuations. There just always are. There's always something going on in the world. There's times that are better in financial markets than others. I mean, right now is a good time to be accumulating investments in the stock market because things are down a little bit. So it's probably a good time to put some more money in. In terms of real estate, if you look at the Chattanooga area since the year 2000, between 2000 and 2020, properties appreciated or went up by about 5% a year. Now, if you remember, in that 20-year period of time, there was a little thing called the real estate crisis. The mortgage crisis, kind of the world blew up for that. And still over that 20 years, properties went up by about 5% a year. So the thing is if you have to pay for real estate, you're much better off building your own balance sheet versus renting, because renting right now is crazy expensive and it's hard to do. There's multiple offers sometimes on rentals.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that, because I was having a conversation this morning with a coworker who's in his 20s, and that was the topic of conversation. He is a homeowner, but people are not able to afford to live these days with rents going up so much.
Yeah, so rents have, right now, if you're trying to rent a single family residence, you're in a multiple offer situation for rental properties. So I think people are just much better off controlling their own destiny by owning your own real estate. And so I think typically a person's going to be in a home, between 5 to 7 years, their first home, longer than that, often if it's a subsequent home. And so your view on real estate's a little longer term, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So at People's Home Equity, one of the things that you've built your business around is trying to guide people comfortably through this process, and you're a big believer in knowing that knowledge is power. So coming in early and making sure you've got your finances in order is the key to success, right?
Yeah, the hardest thing to do right now is to get yourself under contract. And so what we need to be able to do is build a case for the seller that your offer is the one they should take. How do we do that? Provide them with absolute certainty. So what we do for our clients is we get you underwritten right away. So we essentially treat your transaction as if you're under contract. We get all the documentation and we get an approval. And so there is no question about whether or not you can close the transaction. There's no question, you're already approved.
Okay, and I know that you are careful because you don't want to disparage anybody, but you also don't want to disparage yourself. So you are here, you are a locally owned business, you are a neighbor literally to your clients, very different from what you're getting if you're going online and looking for a loan approval.
Well, what you're going to find is when you look at properties, you're going to find a lot of listings in Chattanooga that says local lenders preferred. They mean that. That's for a reason. The reason is because often the national companies don't take as much care in getting you ready to go. They have a poor track record about closing on time. Sometimes they don't close at all. If you're looking at real estate and you see properties that have come back on the market, somebody typically didn't just change their mind. It usually means their financing got turned down. That's a real problem for a seller if they're on their purchase of the next house.
Absolutely.
What we do is help you provide ultimate certainty that you're completing the transaction.
So that you're almost as good as a cash buyer.
You're essentially as good as a cash buyer because your side of it's already approved. There's no question.
So, okay, you mentioned if you're a homeowner selling and you're looking to buy another home. I have a couple of minutes left, but I think you've said before that some people who lived in their home for 15, 20 years or less and they're going to sell might not realize that their finances have changed, their ways of employment have shifted, and they need to go through this process, even if their credit's great.
Thing is even if there's no, thing is that the seller that you're trying to buy their house, they don't know you, they don't know anything about you. And so just because you've owned a home, you've done mortgages before, and you got great credit, you have to be able to demonstrate that. And how do you demonstrate that? With a local lender who's providing absolute assurance to the seller that that transaction is rock solid from the buyer's perspective. So it doesn't really matter where you're at, whether it's your first house or your 10th house. If you're not writing a check for the house, then you have to be able to demonstrate that you have a mortgage that's 100%.
So he would be happy to help you demonstrate that very thing if you want to give his team a call. It's People's Home Equity, their office located right on East Brainerd Road, very easy to find. The phone number is 591-9801. Give him the website, Bruce.
It's chatmortgage.com.
Great talking to you, my friend.
It's always a pleasure.